Coming up on News On, the latest on Hurricane Sally and an update from our crew on the ground.
Sally, as it moves into the Mobile Bay, Alabama, we have boots on the ground to show you the story, just not tell it to you. Next.
And the president is bringing together leaders from Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain for an historic peace deal. We'll hear from Washington, D.C. with all the latest details. And finally,
this is Ben Berkman for America's Voice News. As wildfires continue to burn up and down the West Coast, I spoke to CAL FIRE Captain Richard Cordova about the human impact on these fires.
That and so much more on this edition of News On. Hello and welcome to News On. I'm Miranda. Thank you so much for joining us. Busy news day today. So right now, the Gulf Coast braces for yet another hurricane as Sally is set to become the fourth named storm to strike the U.S. this year. Overnight, the storm weakened to a Category 1 storm, and while that may seem like good news, the National Hurricane Center expects it to strengthen again before making landfall. The center of the slow-moving storm is on track to move near the coast of southeastern Louisiana today. Forecasters predict Sally will make landfall along the Gulf Coast as a very dangerous hurricane tonight and into Wednesday morning. The storm's slow approach means more rain for a longer period of time. The path and timing of the slow-moving storm is very difficult to predict right now, but forecasters say Sally is expected to dump up to 4 months worth of rain in parts of Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida over the next 24 hours. The entire region from Florida to Louisiana is also expected to endure tropical storm force winds and a dangerous storm surge. To find out more about just how dangerous Hurricane Sally is as the storm inches again closer to landfall, we want to check in with Weather Nation's Ben McMillan, who has been covering Sally for us here at America's Voice and joins us live now. Ben, let's start off by telling us exactly where you're located. I believe you're located near Mobile, correct?
That's correct, Miranda. We're on the western edge of Mobile Bay on Highway 193, and Category 1 Hurricane Sally is definitely starting to be felt in this region. You can see the strong northeast wind hitting me from side to side, blowing my jacket around here, and that is also pushing the water in from the ocean, from the bay here, up over 193 here. You can just see how big those waves are. Some structures there off in the distance are definitely at risk now for the storm surge. We're going to be out here throughout the day monitoring this storm as it moves closer to the coast.
Yeah, the president spoke about the hurricane this morning on Fox and Friends about the impact of this storm and how it compares to Hurricane Laura. Let's take a listen to what the president had to say real quickly.
Not what it was the one a month ago. That was really bad. We got very lucky. That was really big coming in, but it went through an area that didn't have as much stuff as the expression goes. You know, when it starts going through city areas and cities, and that happens too. But we did a great job with that one last time. We got a little bit lucky, both in Texas and in Louisiana, because it got pieces of both that weren't heavily occupied. But it still does tremendous damage. This one is smaller, but it's a little bit more direct. But we have it under control. We have FEMA there. We have the Army Corps of Engineers is all there. They can bring things back so fast you wouldn't believe it.
And the president also has been very busy tweeting about this storm as well, saying this on Twitter, that his team, again, is closely monitoring the storm and is fully engaged with state and local leaders to assist the great people of Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Ben, we keep hearing, again, 4 months worth of rain could be hitting this area. I can see flooding happening on the streets where you are. We're told that this is a very heavy rain event. That is the biggest concern right now. And again, this is a slow moving storm, very similar to what we're hearing to Harvey that hit Texas, and also Hurricane Francis that hit Florida back in 2004. We're going to continue to monitor this storm. And we're going to bring you updates here on News On, as well as the rest of the programming that you see on America's Voice, as well as Weather's Nation. Ben McMillan, thank you so much for your time today. Stay safe, my friend, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Meanwhile, another story that is making headlines today, an historic moment is expected to unfold today as Bahrain will formally recognize Israel and establish full diplomatic relations. This is the second Arab nation to announce new ties with Israel in just recent weeks. White House senior advisor Jared Kushner brokered the deal between the UAE and Israel just last month. This brings the total to 4 Arab nations recognizing Israel. Egypt made that move back in 1979 and Jordan in 1994. For more on the specifics of this historic announcement, we want to bring in our Washington, D.C. Just the News correspondent, Sophie Mann. Sophie?
Thanks, Miranda. So as you said, today, foreign ministers from the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain are at the White House to sign these truly historic peace deals with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. As we know, the White House, President Trump's administration have played a significant hand in brokering these deals for the past few weeks, past few months. As Jared Kushner told us from the White House briefing room several weeks ago, the deal, especially with the United Arab Emirates, will open up all sorts of economic avenues, the type of which we haven't seen between Israel and a Middle Eastern country really since 1994, the last time we had a deal of this type happen. Another thing that I think is important to note about these deals is that it just really serves to underscore the idea that a path forward in the Middle East to peace is not necessarily always through the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So I think that we should all remember that this is, a historic deal in that regard as well. Back to you on this.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that report. And we're going to talk more about this historic deal coming up a little bit after the break. We're also going to be talking about recent visits. Trump is expected to go to Philadelphia today, where he's going to be holding a town hall. According to the network, the forum is titled The President and the People and is aimed at providing uncommitted voters the opportunity to directly ask the president questions on issues affecting Americans. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, his rival, is going to be visiting 2 cities here in Florida. We're going to be talking more about who he is going to be targeting. It's going to be veterans and Hispanics and what impact that visit could have on this particular state. Again, Florida, one of the key battleground states. There is still so much more to come here on News On. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Also, still to come, Your Voice. We'll be right back. And welcome back to News On. I'm Miranda Khan. As we mentioned, the president and his opponent, Joe Biden, hitting the campaign trail again today. The president is in D.C. right now, but he's expected to hold a town hall this evening. That is supposed to take place in Philadelphia, and a key battleground state. Again, the forum is titled The President and the People, and it's aimed at providing uncommitted voters the opportunity to directly ask the president's questions. It's expected to cover just everything from the coronavirus pandemic to economic recovery to protests for racial justice and climate change. The event is scheduled to take place around 9 o'clock Eastern and will be hosted by ABC's chief anchor, George Stephanopoulos. Meanwhile, his political opponent also hitting the road today. The Democratic nominee, Joe Biden, will make an appearance in Florida in an attempt to generate excitement for his campaign in the Sunshine State. This will be the first time the former vice president has visited Florida since officially becoming his party's nominee. The former vice president will hold a roundtable with veterans in Tampa before marking Hispanic Heritage Month with an event in Kissimmee near Orlando. The visit comes at a time when some in the former VP's inner circle have expressed their concerns about Biden's standing slipping when it comes to Latino voters. And with both the president and his opponent visiting key battleground states today, it's clear each campaign is fighting for the same block of votes. A new report published today by NPR highlights the former vice president's campaign strategy to outspend the Trump campaign in 6 key battleground states: Florida, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. More than $700 million has been spent on TV ad bookings by both campaigns, with almost 85% of that money going to those 6 states, again, according to NPR, and also data collected by ad tracking firm Advertising Analytics. The Biden campaign and supporting groups have spent almost 90% of their money there, while Trump and Republican organizations have spent 78 cents of every dollar across the 6 states. All right, we now want to welcome, as we mentioned earlier, the president and his team brokering just an historic deal between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. Here to talk more about that, we want to welcome in our guest. And our guest joining us now is Ryan Helfenben. He's executive director of the Falkirk Center for Faith and Liberty. So good to have you here with us, sir. Appreciate it.
Miranda, it's a privilege and an honor.
So this is a huge day that's taking place right now in D.C. Again, the president, we're expected to go out there live any minute. So if I apologize if I have to cut you off to go to live coverage, but just overall your reaction. This is something that his administration has been trying to broker for some time.
Certainly, I think it shows, first of all, his commitment to America First policy. We're seeing that this president has been actively brokering peace throughout the world, and in the Middle East in particular, where we've had problems with so many Arab nations surrounding Israel. This is nothing new to American voters and America's concern. When you think about the stability in that region, we spent trillions of dollars in Iraq and in Afghanistan as well. But what the president has been committing to do is instead flex American muscle and power, and doing it in a way that I think is both strategic and is also moving the needle in ways that voters would not have predicted. And so in this election, I think that's going to be very, very crucial.
Yeah, I want to get your take, though. Obviously, Palestine not reacting very well to the news. We're hearing reports of, people burning pictures of President Trump protesting in the streets. Could this have the opposite effect of what the Trump administration is aiming to do, and that is, of course, create peace in the Middle East?
Well, no, I think that, again, what we need to recognize is that the Palestinian state has been a state-sponsored, sponsor of terrorism for quite some time. And this has gone on for decades. When the Twin Towers came down in 2001, we just marked the anniversary of 9/11 just a few days ago. There were people in Palestine celebrating. There was a coordination effort with the Palestinian state at that time. So these are people that not only hate Israel, they hate the United States. These are enemies, regardless if this was a success or not, they would still be against us. So absolutely not. In fact, it signals to our enemies that a coalition is being built in that region with some very powerful heads of state. United Arab Emirates is growing ever stronger economically and being a big force of peace in the region. So I think this is going to be very helpful moving forward for our strategic partnership and interests.
Yeah, we've also heard reports, and the president talking about it today, that he may be up for a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts, again, to create peace in that part of the world. What do you think the likelihood is of that actually happening?
Well, that'd be interesting to see. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm not at the same time holding my breath. I just say not because of anything lacking in President Trump. There's a lot of substance there, and there's certainly a record of peace to run on. But the issue is you've got a lot of bias with that committee. They gave, if you can remember historically, Barack Obama was only president for 5 minutes, and they were already ready to hand him a prize without anything. But I think that what we have in President Trump is some substance, and he certainly deserves it. But we'll see.
Well, bringing up to that point, you mentioned former President Barack Obama. The president was on another network this morning making reference to that, also criticizing many mainstream media outlets for not even bringing it up that he could be actually up for a Nobel Peace Prize. Does the president, again, make a valid point? Should more media outlets be covering this?
Well, I certainly believe so. Again, but the bias is already out there, and as you know, none of the leftist media want to cover anything like that because it goes against their talking points and the agenda that they're trying to push. And that is that this president is actually, which is very interesting, he's not unhinged. He's very reasonable, very rational in his approach to nation states throughout the world. And what was interesting is, if you remember, when candidate Trump was running in 2016, the biggest thing that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was pushing is that he's somebody who should never be in charge of the nuclear codes. If you remember that in debate 2. And here we have already now, on the eve of yet another election, 4 years of record that demonstrates that President Trump is committed to an American first policy, peace through strength, and it is in fact working. So absolutely, other media outlets would not want to show his record of accomplishment, and certainly wouldn't want to signal to the folks that are in the New York and California areas, hey, Nobel Peace Prize could be coming to President Trump.
We only have about 45 seconds remaining, but real quickly, again, the president expected to, and we're going to go out to him live in D.C., but what does this deal, what message does this send to the rest of the world when it comes to America and our relationship with Israel and some of these Middle Eastern countries?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's a great question. I think it signals to the rest of the world that we do keep our promises, that we have at the top the leader of the free world, someone who doesn't just run on rhetoric, but he is a man committed to a mission, leading by conviction, and that he will keep his promises. And these peace negotiations and treaties are only as good as the promise that is being kept. So the rest of the world, we can rest assured, when it comes to national security, the United States posture is one of action. Now, we will keep our promises, and we are building a broader coalition that I think will not only strengthen the integrity of our union here, but also abroad.
Ryan Helfenben, thank you so much for joining us here on News On. I hope you'll come back on again.
No, thank you. My pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Still ahead here on News On, as wildfires continue to burn up and down the West Coast, the severity is becoming more and more apparent. Smoke has just blown thousands of miles east, even as far as New York. We're going to talk about that and give you the very latest track. We're also going to have a live report with our very own Ben Berkwam coming up live for you from California. We'll be right back. You're watching News On. And welcome back to News On. Here's a look more at some of the stories that are making headlines today. Scientists with the University of Pittsburgh say they have discovered a new drug that could treat coronavirus, in fact, even prevent it. The researchers say they identified a small piece of an antibody that neutralizes SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. They use a molecule to create a drug that they believe can treat and even stop the virus from spreading. They say the drug has been tested on mice and hamsters. The scientists published their findings in the journal Cell on Monday. Meanwhile, we're going to just stick around with COVID. A new study suggests your blood type may determine your risk of actually contracting the virus. Scientists at genetics company 23andMe looked at more than 1 million DNA samples. Now, according to its data, people with the blood type O tend to test positive for the virus less frequently when compared to people with any other blood type. The study also found a rare genetic mutation in fewer than 10% of the population that appears to raise the risk of developing a serious case of COVID. 23andMe study, of course, is not considered scientific because it's relied on self-reported data and it has not been peer-reviewed. Meanwhile, in California, wildfires just continue to burn and devastate that area. In Butte County, officials say at least 15 people have died since a wildfire began burning in that area. The North Complex fire erupted in August from a lightning strike. It has now torched more than 260,000 acres in 3 counties. The fire is less than 40% contained. Hundreds of structures have been destroyed or damaged, and thousands more are threatened. Fire officials say temperatures are expected to increase in the coming days and the humidity will remain high. So far, at least 36 people have died in wildfires raging again in California, Oregon, and D.C. Not Washington, D.C., but D.C., Washington, rather. Easy for me to say. For more on the impacts of these fires that are ravaging the West Coast, we want to bring in our California correspondent, Ben Bergquam. Ben, thank you so much for joining us again here on News On. Let's start with an update as to what you're seeing on the ground today. Is the weather shifting in your area? Is there any hope on the way when it comes to dealing with these fires?
Yeah, it's cooler than the average right now, which is a good thing, but we do still have winds blowing. What we've heard so far with the creek fire that we've been following here locally is they don't anticipate it being put out until October 15th, which means the evacuations will continue through October 15th. It's going to be a bad year, and this is yesterday. We're nearing 3.5 million acres burned. This is by far the worst fire year in California history. 10% of our forests have already burned up, and these are fires that will keep those forests from growing back for 20, 30, 40 years potentially.
Yeah, now I understand that you spoke to a California fire official yesterday about the cause of some of these wildfires. Can you share with us some of the information that you learned?
Yes, so I spoke to Cal Fire Captain Richard Cordova. I believe we might have that clip available. It's interesting as we continue to go back and forth, and if we watch the footage yesterday with President Trump and Governor Newsom and the sheriffs, it's very political what we're talking about. It's really not, but it's become political about forest management versus climate change. But what Captain Cordova says, it's interesting. It's one of those things we forget. 95% of these fires are man-caused, and I don't know if we have that clip available.
Do we have it?
From your experience, what is the number one thing that we could do as a state to reduce the amount of fires? It seems like they're going up every year.
For the most part, it's up to the public. 95% of our wildland fires are human caused. So unfortunately, we had a lightning siege that came through here that started a lot of these fires, but a lot of it is the public out there being situated in awareness on what they're doing and make sure they're being safe when they're out in the wildland area or just driving up and down the highways.
We hear about chains dragging on cars, throwing out cigarettes. Anything else that you'd recommend people not do?
Pretty much that's the key right there is make sure their vehicles, if they're going into these areas, make sure their vehicles are well kept up. A lot of those vehicles start on fire from overheating. So, and when they're out there camping or they're out there in the recreational areas, make sure they're being diligent on what they're doing with their either cigarettes or any kind of devices that they may be using out there, that any little spark can start a wildland fire.
You mentioned the human caused. We've also heard reports of a lot of arson this year. Are you seeing that as well? How many? Do you have any idea of the percentages? Is arson increasing?
I couldn't tell you on if it's increasing or not, but this year alone, our Cal Fire law enforcement has arrested 66 individuals for arson. So it is a big factor out there, which is unfortunate, but that's something that's been here around for quite a while. So it's unfortunate that we have people out there that start those wildland fires, and they need to make sure that if they're caught, they're held liable from anywhere paying those costs back, or if there's some type of death or injury to a firefighter, they're responsible for that and they're going to be charged for it.
And that's one of those things that we forget about.
Interesting information there.
Yeah, and one of the things that just off the record that he did say, and every single firefighter that I've spoken to up there has said, forest management is the key to preventing them from growing into the catastrophic wildfires that we see right now. But as far as starting the fires, arson and people just not paying attention.
Yeah, you mentioned, forest management. I want to get your take on something, again, that the president said yesterday. You attended his speech in Northern California as he addressed those fires. Take a listen to what he had to say, and then, Ben, I want to get your reaction.
What would you like to see specifically done on the issue of forest management? And is it possible that it's also forest management and climate change? It's both things
Well,
at the
I think
same time.
something's possible. I think a lot of things are possible. But with regard to the forests, when trees fall down after a short period of time, about 18 months, they become very dry. They become really like a matchstick. And they get up, there's no more water pouring through. And they become very, very, they just explode. They can explode. Also, leaves. When you have years of leaves, dried leaves on the ground, it just sets it up. It's really a fuel for a fire. So they have to do something about it. They also have to do cuts. I mean, people don't like to do cuts, but they have to do cuts in between. So if you do have a fire and it gets away, you'll have a 50-yard cut in between, so it won't be able to catch to the other side. They don't do that.
And again, the president is talking here about California's decision to scale back their forest management plan. You mentioned the governor of your state. The governor not necessarily disagreeing with the president there, saying that was part of it, but he also credits some of the damage and widespread wildfires that we've seen to climate change. The president, again, attacking that idea this morning, recently on another media outlet, saying that you don't see these type of wildfires in other forests around the world. What are you hearing, and real quickly because we're running out of time, but in the next minute, what are you hearing from people there? Does climate change have anything to do with this?
Well, the climate clearly changes and it is warming. There's no question about that. But the biggest impact, the biggest thing that we could do right now, what I'm hearing over and over and over and over again, is thin the forests. The forests are 4 times more dense than they should be. If we cleared those forests, if we created those fire lanes that President Trump was talking about, basically gaps in between the forests to prevent the forest from spreading, the fires from spreading, if we cleared the underbrush, all of those things would prevent these catastrophic wildfires. The conversation about climate change is something that's ongoing, but what we need to do right now, and if we actually wanted to, if we believe in climate change, if they believe in climate change, the last thing you want to do is burn 3 million acres of trees that absorb CO2. And so the whole thing to me is just, it's ridiculous. We need to put out the fires, prevent the fires, so that the trees can do their job and absorb CO2 and breathe out oxygen.
Ben Berquam joining us live in California with the very latest on the situation out there, again, as wildfires continue to ravage that state as well as a few others. Thank you so much for that report. There is still much more to come here on News On. Coming up, we talked about Hurricane Sally, and again, the wildfires. Could some relief be in sight? We're going to find out next with a report from Weather Nation. We'll be right back. You're watching News On. And welcome back to News On. From wildfires in the west to a hurricane now approaching the south, we'd like to send it over to Weather Nation's Patrick Crawford and Matt Monroe for a very latest look at today's nationwide forecast.
Hi everyone, Weather Nation meteorologist Patrick Crawford here as we continue to track Hurricane Sally bringing major impacts to the Gulf Coast states. Anywhere from Louisiana through the Florida Panhandle, there will be impacts with heavy rain, strong storm surge, power outages, even a risk of tornadoes. Just look at the pure size of this system. Now, it is not up to a major strength. That's Category 3 or higher, but it does have a lot of coverage area for those impacts, those outer bands, going to bring the flooding rains through Alabama, Florida, maybe even as the storm continues to move up on shore over the next few days. It brings with it a lot of heavy rain into the southeast through Alabama, into Georgia, as well as over towards the Carolinas. So we're going to be talking about this system all the way through the weekend, and it's going to be mainly that risk of heavy rain. But as it gets closer to land, already starting to see that push of water on shore. We've got storm surge warnings in place from parishes throughout southeastern Louisiana along the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, Alabama, and over towards the Florida Panhandle. Speaking of the Florida Panhandle, looking at about a 1 to 3, 2 to 4 feet as far as the storm surge, but look over towards Mississippi, Gulfport, into Mobile Bay, into southern Alabama. That's where the higher storm surge is likely setting up based on the latest track of this storm and the direction that it's moving. That's what it's going to be bringing with it. It's going to be bringing with it that storm surge risk, where we're going to have that potential of not only that water moving on shore, but we're going to have the flooding rains. That's going to create some very hazardous conditions for anybody in these areas. Severe chances will be on top of this. This means that we could get some severe thunderstorms in the form of tornado-producing thunderstorms over the open Gulf waters moving on shore. So that risk of tornadoes is also another thing that needs to be monitored here over the next several hours. Look at the flash flood watch. It goes all the way up into Birmingham, Alabama. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to get some more flood watches extending out into both Georgia as well as South Carolina. That's a look at one top weather headline. Matt, you've got another look at those wildfires that continue to go out west.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not good out there again today. There's a lot of smoke. There's still tons of fires. I mean, this could be going on for weeks here, Patrick, until the rainy season really starts grabbing hold late October, early November. So we're only about midway through September. Fire weather danger here. Red flag warnings continue around Lakeview, Oregon, all the way down in through extreme northern and northeastern California. There's really fire danger everywhere because it has been so dry and there's so many ongoing fires out there right now. But this is the official forecast. An elevated fire danger, south central Oregon, northeastern California, and northwestern Nevada. Where there's fire, there's smoke, and this is just unbelievable amounts of smoke. I've been in this weather game a long time. I've never seen this much smoke for this length of time, too. Look at it just covering Seattle, Portland, all the way down in through California, all the way across the Rocky Mountains, Denver. We've been smoky here too. We've got fires here in Colorado. Weather Nation, of course, comes to you from Denver. North of that, we have Billings, Minneapolis, Omaha, Chicago. They're actually seeing and at least smelling some smoke too. The most intense smoke is going to be closer to the fires, though, out across California, Nevada, in through the Pacific Northwest, all the way in through Montana, Rapid City, South Dakota. That forecast is taking you through Wednesday. So today, tonight, tomorrow, here we go again. There's not a lot of smoke relief in sight. If you have to be out, the nighttime is usually the best time to do it because that's when the winds die down and all that particulate matter, at least for the most part, has a chance to settle. But during the day, it is going to be bad. Those are your top weather headlines. Hope you have a great day.
Yeah, a lot of smoke. In fact, it's already impacting areas as far away as New York. Pretty powerful stuff. And again, 30 inches of rain predicted to fall in parts of the South and Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana. We're going to continue to track the weather there going on across the country. Coming up, though, you have a voice, and we always want to hear it. After the break, we're going to hear from you, America. We share your thoughts on what's important to you coming up next. Also, could there be life on Venus? We'll discuss coming up. You're watching News On. And welcome back to News On here at America's Voice News. Our goal is always to give you a voice. Simply join our community platform, which you can find on our website at americasvoice.news, or you could reach out to us on social media. We're all over the place. Submit your comment or question, and we may air it on this very program. All right, we begin with a question we asked just a few days ago that's continuing to just garner up a lot of attention, and that is this one. We asked you, if you were a moderator for the upcoming presidential debates, the first one being September 29th, what would be the number one question that you would ask the candidates and why? Cosmo DeCino here in Florida replied with this comment: the only question that keeps me awake that I would like an answer to is this: why, if you all continue saying that you want to fix America and continue to be so incredibly divided, believe that such negative campaigning is the way to do it? He continues to say, quote, I have been told I am naive, but my logic doesn't compute the rule of two wrongs don't make it right. Just tell us exactly what you want to do and don't tell us about how bad the other is. No good results will ever come from that. Great point, Cosmo. America was built, after all, on United We Stand. Thank you so much for sharing your voice. Next, we have a video from Anthony Brennan from Massachusetts, who posed this question to you watching. Let's see what he has to say.
Hello to Miranda Kahn and America's Voice News. I just want to throw some thoughts out on what stories are being covered by the news lately and what stories are not, and let the people decide what they think is important, what isn't. But it's pretty interesting what I see being reported. It's a lot on the presidential race, whatever is being said by the two candidates on a daily basis. A lot has been said about the protests at the sporting events, about the violence in the protests in the streets. There's also been stories about what Donald Trump may or may not have said about the veterans. And on the other hand, a lot of stories are not being reported, such as the endless wars, the coups that are being done by the CIA across the world, the war crimes in Yemen, the current prosecution of whistleblowers, the surveillance state. What happened earlier this year with the huge bailout of the banks and the corporations, the Federal Reserve, and all the money they printed, and the fact that neither party is really pushing any serious legislation when it comes to police reform. So that's kind of what I noticed, what's reported and what's not. Whether that the priorities are straight or not, I think that's up to the viewer, but it's just kind of some observations of things I see that are reported, some things I see that are not reported. Thank you. Bye.
Anthony, as always, we appreciate your comment. And responding to your video, we have a response from Ray Schuler, who said, I refuse to watch the mainstream media. He says all they do is talk about how bad Trump is, and no, that's not what's important to me. They are extremely progressive, he says, and he says he watches America's Voice News. Thank you so much for your response, Ray Schuler. It's always good to hear from you. And remember, for those of you watching, we'd love to hear from you. Watch for our questions all over the social media platforms. You can post a video, private message us 1-2, or leave us a comment. Again, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Parlay, CloudHub, LinkedIn, and of course, our online community platform at americasvoice.news. And don't forget to download our app. We'll be right back. You're watching News On. And welcome back to News On. I'm Miranda Khan. We're still waiting on the president right now to come out and sign that historic agreement between Israel, the United Emirates, and Bahrain. So with the very latest details, I'd like to welcome in our Just the News correspondent, Carrie Sheffield. She joins us live now from the White House lawn. Carrie, the president was scheduled to come out about noon today. What details can you give us?
Miranda, hi. I'm here. As you can hear, it's a bit boisterous. The First Lady just arrived. As you can hear, there's a band playing for her arrival. The president moments ago just walked up with the leaders. He's going to be signing the accord, as you mentioned, with the leader of the UAE. There are flags that are there on the south lawn portico from the UAE and from Israel. There is a crowd here that is jubilant. I'll turn around so you can see them a bit, get a sense of the atmosphere. You can hear that live band playing. You see lots of kippahs, which are the Jewish skull cap. There are lots of media here. I'm in the media section. You've got lots of Israeli, Jewish, but also Arab media outlets here present to witness this incredibly historic day.
Yeah, we hear the president is coming out right now. I know your back is towards him. Do we have the president getting ready to speak at the podium? Do we have a live shot of that we can maybe go to? There, yes. Let's see if we can move in a little bit closer. Again, we're waiting for the president, Carrie Sheffield, joining us there on the White House lawn with Just the News. As she mentioned, First Lady coming out. There you can see her right there. We're waiting for the president to come out and talk about this huge accord. Looking forward to hearing more from the president. You want to make sure you keep it right here on America's Voice News for live coverage of the signing of this agreement, again, that Jared Kushner was very instrumental in helping to create. We're going to continue to monitor the situation on that. Meanwhile, we are going to continue to monitor that situation. And finally, we want to leave you tonight. And again, we'll break into it if the president starts speaking. But meanwhile, we were talking about other life forms. So let's go to that. We leave you. NASA has found a big similarity between Earth and the planet, often referred to as Earth's twin. Researchers say they have detected a gas in the atmosphere of Venus. The particular compound is called phosphine. On Earth, the flammable gas occurs when organic matter breaks down. Don't you just love these stories? It is also produced by bacteria that does not need oxygen, like organisms that are living in wetlands. Either way, that means something could be alive on Venus's scorching surface. Pretty cool, huh? Venus is usually called Earth's twin because it's similar in size to the Earth. As we mentioned earlier, the president and his team brokering an historic deal between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. There you hear the president standing up to the podium right there from his window, from the White House lawn. Let's listen in, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
The First Lady and I are honored to welcome to the White House Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel and Mrs. Netanyahu. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. And Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed, United Arab Emirates, UAE. Thank you very much. And Foreign Minister Abdulaziz Al Zani of Bahrain. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're here this afternoon to change the course of history. After decades of division and conflict, we mark the dawn of a new Middle East. Thanks to the great courage of the leaders of these three countries, we take a major stride toward a future in which people of all faiths and backgrounds live together in peace and prosperity. In a few moments, these visionary leaders will sign the first two peace deals between Israel and the Arab state in more than a quarter century. In Israel's entire history, there have previously been only two such agreements. Now we have achieved two in a single month, and there are more to follow. Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain will establish embassies, exchange ambassadors, and begin the cooperate and work together so strongly to cooperate as partners across the broad range of sectors, from tourism to trade and healthcare to security. They're going to work together. They are friends. The Abraham Accords also opened the door for Muslims around the world to visit the historic sites in Israel and to peacefully pray at Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, the third holiest site in Islam. Together, these agreements will serve as the foundation for a comprehensive peace across the entire region, something which nobody thought was possible, certainly not in this day and age, maybe in many decades from now, but one founded on shared interests, mutual respect, and friendship. To our honored guests from Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, congratulations on this outstanding achievement. Congratulations. Fantastic. I also want to thank Vice President Mike Pence. Thank you, Mike. Great job. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mike, thank you very much. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien. Robert, thank you. Mr. Jared Kushner. Jared, thank you very much. Ambassador Brian Hook. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you. Thank you. And Avi Berkowitz. Avi, thank you very much. I also want to give a very special thanks. He's been an incredible ambassador to Israel. David Friedman. That's a very great group of people, great group of patriots. They wanted this to happen so badly. They worked so hard. And again, nobody thought it could happen, and they thought it could happen. They never even doubted it. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. For generations, the people of the Middle East have been held back by old conflicts, hostilities, lies, treacheries. So many things held them back. Actually, lies that the Jews and Arabs were enemies and that Al-Aqsa Mosque was under attack. Constantly, they would say it was under attack. These lies passed down from generation to generation, fueled a vicious cycle of terror and violence that spread across the region and all over the world. These agreements prove that the nations of the region are breaking free from the failed approaches of the past. Today's signing sets history on a new course, and there will be other countries very, very soon that will follow these great leaders. The people of the Middle East will no longer allow hatred of Israel to be fomented as an excuse for radicalism or extremism, so important. And they'll no longer allow the great destiny of their region to be denied. On my first foreign trip as president, I had the honor of addressing the leaders of more than 54 Arab and Muslim nations in Saudi Arabia. My message that day was very simple. I urge the nations of the Middle East to set aside their differences, unite against the common enemy of civilization, and work together toward the noble aims of security and prosperity. I offered America's friendship. I offered America's help. But I said clearly that the nations of the regions had to decide what kind of a future they wanted for their children and for their families and for their nation itself. No one could make that choice for them. They had to do that themselves. Today, the world sees that they're choosing cooperation over conflict, friendship over enmity, prosperity over poverty, and hope over despair. They are choosing a future in which Arabs and Israelis, Muslims, Jews, and Christians can live together, pray together, and dream together, side by side in harmony, community, and peace. Once again, let me congratulate the people of Israel, the people of the United Arab Emirates, and the people of the Kingdom of Bahrain. God bless you all. This is an incredible day for the world. This is a really wonderful and beautiful occasion. I want to thank all of the members of Congress for being here. Senators, congressmen, congresswomen, we just appreciate it so much. Everybody wanted to be here. It's a very important day for the world. It's a very important day for peace. Before the parties sign the accords, I'd like to ask Prime Minister Netanyahu to say a few words, followed by the Foreign Minister of the United Arab Emirates and the Foreign Minister of Bahrain. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Thank you.
Our dear friend, President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, thank you for hosting me, my wife Sarah, and our entire delegation on this historic day. I want to recognize Vice President Pence, Secretary Pompeo, National Security Advisor O'Brien, and other cabinet members, Jared Kushner, Avi Berkowitz, Ambassador Friedman, and other members of the President's able peace team, senators, members of Congress, Israeli Ambassador Ron Dermer, his Emirate and Bahraini counterparts, as well as all the dignitaries gathered here on this sunny day. I want to also express my gratitude for all the Israelis who've worked for years, sometimes in less sunny climes, to bring this date, and I thank each and every one of you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, this day is a pivot of history. It heralds a new dawn of peace. For thousands of years, the Jewish people have prayed for peace. For decades, the Jewish state has prayed for peace. And this is why today we're filled with such profound gratitude. I am grateful to you, President Trump, for your decisive leadership. You have unequivocally stood by Israel's side. You have boldly confronted the tyrants of Tehran. You've proposed a realistic vision for peace between Israel and the Palestinians. And you have successfully brokered the historic peace that we are signing today, a peace that has broad support in Israel, in America, in the Middle East, indeed in the entire world. I am grateful to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed of the United Arab Emirates and to you, Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed. I thank you both for your wise leadership and for working with the United States and Israel to expand the circle of peace. I am grateful to King Hamad of Bahrain and to you, Foreign Minister Abdul Latif Al-Zayani, for joining us in bringing hope to all the children of Abraham. To all of Israel's friends in the Middle East, those who are with us today and those who will join us tomorrow, I say, Assalamu alaikum. Peace unto thee. Shalom. And you have heard from the President that he is already lining up more and more countries. This is unimaginable a few years ago, but with resolve, determination, a fresh look at the way peace is done, this is being achieved Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Israel well know the price of war. I know the price of war. I was wounded in battle. A fellow soldier, a very close friend of mine, died in my arms. My brother Yoni lost his life while leading his soldiers to rescue hostages held by terrorists at Entebbe. My parents' grief over the loss of Yoni was unrelieved until their dying day. And over the years, when I've come to console the families of Israel's fallen soldiers and victims of terror, I have seen that same grief countless times. And this is why I am so deeply moved to be here today. For those who bear the wounds of war, cherish the blessings of peace. And the blessings of the peace we make today will be enormous. First, because this peace will eventually expand to include other Arab states, and ultimately it can end the Arab-Israeli conflict once and for all. Second, because the great economic benefits of our partnership will be felt throughout our region, and they will reach every one of our citizens. And third, because this is not only a peace between leaders, it's a peace between peoples. Israelis, Emiratis, and Bahrainis are already embracing one another. We are eager to invest in a future of partnership, prosperity, and peace. We've already begun to cooperate on combating Corona, and I'm sure that together we can find solutions to many of the problems that afflict our region and beyond. So despite the many challenges and hardship that we all face, despite all that, let us pause for a moment to appreciate this remarkable day. Let us rise above any political divide. Let us put all cynicism aside. Let us feel, on this day, the pulse of history. For long after the pandemic is gone, the peace we make today will endure. Ladies and gentlemen, I have devoted my life to securing Israel's place among the nations to ensure the future of the one and only Jewish state. To accomplish that goal, I work to make Israel strong, very strong. For history has taught us that strength brings security, strength brings allies, and ultimately, and this is something President Trump has said again and again, ultimately, strength brings peace. King David expressed this basic truth thousands of years ago in our eternal capital, Jerusalem. His prayer, immortalized in the book of Psalms in the Bible, echoes from our glorious past and guides us towards a brilliant future. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom. May God give strength to his people. May God bless his people with peace. Mr. President, distinguished guests, this week is Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. And what a blessing we bring to this new year. A blessing of friendship, a blessing of hope, a blessing of peace. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, His Highness, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the United Arab Emirates.
Prime Minister and my friend Abdul Latif Zayani, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let me start by conveying the best regards of the UAE people and the leadership, and especially of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, to you, Mr. President, and everyone gathered here today. I'll continue my speech in Arabic, and I'm sure there will be translation to that. أقف اليوم أمد يد سلام وأستقبل يد سلام. نقول في ديننا الإسلامي: اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام. فالبحث عن السلم مبدأ أصيل، ولكن المبادئ تتحقق فعلا عندما تتحول إلى أفعال. وها نحن اليوم نشهد فعلا سوف يغير الشرق الأوسط وسيبعث الأمل حول العالم.
I stand here today to extend a hand of peace and receive a hand of peace. In our faith, we say, "O God, you are peace, and from you comes peace." The search for peace is an innate principle, yet principles are effectively realized when they are transformed into action. Today, we are already witnessing a change in the heart of the Middle East, a change that will send hope around the world.
لم تكن هذه المبادرة ممكنة لولا جهود فخامة الرئيس الأمريكي دونالد ترامب وفريقه الذي سعى بجد وإخلاص لنصل إلى هنا. وهنا لابد لي أن أشير إلى صديقي وزير الخارجية مايك بومبيو، وصديقي جاريد كوشنر كبير مستشاري الرئيس الأمريكي، وكل المخلصين لمبدأ السلام في الولايات المتحدة الذين سعوا لتحقيق هذا الإنجاز الكبير. شكرا لكم.
This initiative would not have been possible without the efforts of His Excellency President Donald Trump and his team, who worked hard and sincerely for us all to reach here. Most notably, my counterpart, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and Jared Kushner, Senior Advisor to the President of the United States, and all those who are genuine about the principle of peace in the United States, who have strived to realize this major achievement. Thank you.
دولة رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي بنجامين نتنياهو، شكرا لك على اختيارك السلام ووقف ضم الأراضي الفلسطينية، مما يعزز إرادتنا المجتمعة لتحقيق مستقبل أفضل للأجيال القادمة.
Your Excellency Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of the State of Israel, thank you for choosing peace and for halting the annexation of Palestinian territories, a decision that reinforces our shared will to achieve a better future for generations to come.
سادة الحضور، نشهد اليوم فكرا جديدا سيخلق مسارا أفضل لمنطقة الشرق الأوسط، فمعاهدة السلام هذه تعد إنجازا تاريخيا لكل من الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية ودولة إسرائيل ودولة الإمارات. لن يتوقف أثرها الإيجابي، بل إننا نؤمن بأن ثمارها ستنعكس على المنطقة بأسرها، فكل خيار غير السلام سيعني دمار وفقر ومعاناة إنسانية. إن هذه الرؤية الجديدة التي بدأت تتشكل باجتماعنا اليوم لمستقبل منطقة مليئة بالطاقات الشابة ليست شعارا نرفعه من أجل مكاسب سياسية، فالجميع يتطلع إلى خلق مستقبل أكثر استقرار وازدهار.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing today a new trend that will create a better path for the Middle East. This peace accord, which is a historic achievement for the United States of America, the State of Israel and the United Arab Emirates will continue to have a positive impact, as we believe that its reverberations will be reflected on the entire region. Every option other than peace would signify destruction, poverty, and human suffering. This new vision, which is beginning to take shape as we meet today for the future of the region, full of youthful energy, is not a slogan that we raise for political gain, as everyone looks forward to creating a more stable, prosperous, and secure future.
في زمن يسود فيه العلم يتطلع شباب المنطقة ليكونوا جزءاً من هذا الحراك الإنساني. وكم يسعدنا أن تكون الإمارات جزءاً من قوة الدفع هذا نحو الاستقرار ونمو الطاقات البشرية في مقاربة حضارية جديدة تفتح أبواب الفرص على مصراعيها ليستفيد منها محبي السلام والازدهار والمستقبل. فمجتمعاتنا اليوم تمتلك مقومات التنمية الإنسانية الحديثة من بنية تحتية واقتصاد متين وإنجازات علمية تؤهلها للنهوض بمستقبل الشرق الأوسط.
At a time when science is prevailing, the region's youth are looking forward to taking part in this great humanitarian movement. We are pleased that the United Arab Emirates will be part of the momentum towards stability and the growth of human potential in a new civilized approach that opens wide the doors of opportunity for those who look forward towards peace, prosperity, and the future. Our societies today possess the foundation of modern human development, such as infrastructure, a solid economy, and scientific achievements that will enable them to advance the future of the Middle East.
تؤمن الإمارات بأن دور الولايات المتحدة في المنطقة الشرق الأوسط إيجابي، والدليل هذه المعاهدة التي نوقع اليوم في البيت الأبيض، حيث ستظل في التاريخ الإنساني منارة مضيئة لكل محبي السلام. وبالنسبة لنا فإن هذه المعاهدة ستمكننا من الوقوف أكثر إلى جانب الشعب الفلسطيني وتحقيق آماله في دولة مستقلة ضمن منطقة مستقرة ومزدهرة. تأتي هذه المعاهدات العربية التي وقعت مع إسرائيل في العقود الماضية كخطوة ولبنة مهمة للمستقبل، حيث الهدف من هذه المعاهدات هو العمل نحو الاستقرار والتنمية.
The United Arab Emirates believes that the role of the United States in the Middle East is positive, and this belief is evidenced by the accord that we are signing today at the White House, for which you have taken the lead, and will remain a beacon in human history for all peace-loving people around the world. And as for us in the United Arab Emirates, this accord will enable us to continue to stand by the Palestinian people and realize their hopes for an independent state within a stable and prosperous region. This accord builds upon previous peace agreements signed by Arab nations with the State of Israel. The aim of all these treaties is to work towards stability and sustainable development.
هذه السنة صعبة على العالم الذي يعاني من تداعيات كورونا. عززت بلدي التزاماتها تجاه المبادئ الإنسانية التي أرساها مؤسس دولة الإمارات الشيخ زايد، الذي علمنا بأن وقوف جانب مع الآخر أي من كان هذا الشخص مهما كان انتمائه العرقي أو الديني هو واجب إنساني ومبدأ راسخ.
In this difficult year, when the world is suffering from the repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic, my country, the United Arab Emirates, has reinforced its humanitarian commitments established by our nation's founding father, Sheikh Zayed, who taught us that standing with others, regardless of their religious or ethnic affiliation, is a humanitarian duty and a firm principle.
استطاعت بلدي أيضا في هذه الظروف الصعبة أن تطلق مسبار إلى المريخ. إن مسبار الأمل في الحقيقة يمثل أمل بأن منطقتنا قادرة على النهوض والتقدم، إذ تبنت الحكومات والشعوب العلوم. وبعد أن أرسلت الإمارات رائد الفضاء هزاع المنصوري العام الماضي إلى محطة الفضاء الدولية، وأطلقت محطة سلمية للطاقة النووية، جاءت هذه الاتفاقية لتفتح آفاق أوسع لسلام شامل في المنطقة.
During this difficult time, the United Arab Emirates, my country, was able to launch a probe to Mars. The HOPE probe indeed represents hope that our region is capable of advancement and progress if governments and people embrace science. After the United Arab Emirates sent astronaut Hazza al-Mansouri last year as the first Arab astronaut to reach the International Space Station and launched a peaceful nuclear power plant, this accord opened up prospects for a comprehensive peace in the region.
سادة الحضور، إن السلام يحتاج إلى شجاعة، وصناعة المستقبل تحتاج إلى معرفة، والنهوض بالأمم يحتاج إلى إخلاص ومثابرة. لقد أتينا اليوم لنقول للعالم إن هذا نهجنا، سلام مبدأنا، ومن كانت بدايته صحيحة ستكون إنجازاته مشرقة بإذن الله. شكرا جزيلا. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ladies and gentlemen, peace requires courage, and shaping the future requires knowledge. The advancement of nations requires sincerity and persistence. We have come today to tell the world that this is our approach and that peace is our guiding principle. Those who begin things in the right way will reap bright achievements with the grace of God. Thank you.
With grace of God, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Minister of the Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Bahrain.
The President, the First Lady, Prime Minister, Your Highness, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today is a truly historic occasion, a moment of hope and opportunity for all the peoples of the Middle East, and in particular for the millions in our younger generations. The declaration supporting peace between the Kingdom of Bahrain and the State of Israel is an historic step on the road to genuine and lasting peace, security, and prosperity across the region, and for all who live there, regardless of religion, sect, ethnicity, or ideology. For too long, the Middle East has been set back by conflict and mistrust, causing untold destruction and thwarting the potential of generations of our best and brightest young people. Now, I'm convinced we have the opportunity to change that. Today's declaration was made possible by the vision, courage, and commitment of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, who, supported by the people of Bahrain, has protected, institutionalized, and enhanced Bahrain's centuries-old spirit of coexistence and harmony, and has the wisdom to recognize that genuine cooperation is the most effective means to achieve peace and to safeguard legitimate rights. Thank you, Your Majesty, for this vision of peace for the region based on trust, respect, and understanding between all faiths, races, and nations. To our brothers in the United Arab Emirates, I congratulate you on your own momentous peace accord being signed today with Israel. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed has shown great leadership and foresight to make peace possible and secure a brighter future for our region. For the State of Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu, we welcome and appreciate these steps from you and your government, recognizing that enduring peace and security is only possible through a genuine engagement that protects the rights and interests of countries and peoples in the region. In particular, I want to express my deep appreciation to President Donald Trump and his administration. Mr. President, your statesmanship and tireless efforts have brought us here today and made peace a reality. And to Secretary Pompeo, Senior Advisor Jared Kushner, and Special Representative Avi Brikovitz, who have, and others, many others, who have carried out their mandates with dedication and skill. Ladies and gentlemen, today's agreement is an important first step, and it is now incumbent on us to work urgently and actively to bring about the lasting peace and security our peoples deserve. A just, comprehensive, and enduring two-state solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict will be the foundation, the bedrock of such peace. We have shown today that such a path is possible, even realistic. What was only dreamed of a few years ago is now achievable, and we can see before us a golden opportunity for peace, security, and prosperity for our region. Let us, together and with our international partners, waste no time in seizing it. Thank you.
the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and His Highness, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the United Arab Emirates, will sign a treaty of peace, diplomatic relations, and full normalization. They will each sign 3 copies, one in English, Hebrew, and Arabic. We kindly ask that all guests remain seated for the signing of the documents.
Can you be helpful here and tell me your name?
Okay. You do the same for me in Arabic.
I will.
So, which one is mine?
Thank you.
That one.
Can
26 years.
we flip them over or turn them up?
Hello and welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Tudor Dixon alongside Steve Gruber. Today is Tuesday, September 15th, and you just watched the president signing the Abraham Accords. Steve, the president was joined by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the foreign ministers of the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain to sign this historic peace deal. We just watched it. We watched the speeches. Very touching stuff, but this is really something that we have never seen in our lifetime.